Most of us share a deep, quiet desire to be the author and absolute center of our own lives. We map out exact timelines for ourselves: the promotion by 25, the perfect relationship by 30, the flawless trajectory for our future. Then reality hits. The promotion goes to someone else, the relationship fractures, and the intense friction between what we planned and what we actually got begins to hurt. That deep frustration we feel toward God is the sound of a personal script being torn up. We are angry because the story isn't going the way we wrote it. 2,000 years ago, on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, a group of men ran into this exact same problem. The disciples had a highly specific set of expectations for Jesus. They anticipated a victorious political king who would crush the Roman occupation and hand them earthly power. Instead, Jesus drops a piece of news known as the second passion prediction. He announces that he is going to be betrayed, handed over to the authorities, and executed. The disciples were deeply distressed. A dying Messiah completely contradicted their understanding of victory, creating a massive wave of cognitive dissonance. It felt like their entire movement was collapsing. Their historical horror perfectly mirrors our modern panic. When God allows suffering or failure instead of the immediate victory we anticipated, our entire sense of direction falls apart. You would expect this grim execution prophecy to result in mourning, or at least quiet reflection. But immediately after Jesus announces his impending death, the disciples pivot to arguing over which one of them is going to be the greatest in the kingdom. In this moment, the disciples are looking at Jesus' mission and deciding they have a better plan. They are choosing their own vision of the best life over the path God has set, and that choice is the very essence of sin. Here is the Son of God heading toward the cross, and his closest friends are fighting over status. They were still furiously trying to make themselves the main characters of the story. Human ambition naturally drives us to climb a ladder of status and comfort. When we are hyper-focused on that upward climb, we remain completely blind to the reality of the cross. Jesus responds to their tone-deaf argument physically. He calls a little child over and stands them right in the middle of the room. Today, we tend to romanticize this moment because we view children as precious and innocent. In the first-century Roman world, the cultural view was entirely different. This diagram illustrates the hierarchy of ancient society. Children didn't sit near the top. They occupied the very bottom tier, possessing zero legal rights, power, or social standing. What defined a child was absolute, helpless dependency on someone greater than themselves. Jesus gives them a radical ultimatum. Unless they completely invert their ambition and become like this dependent child, they cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Greatness in God's economy requires stepping completely off the human ladder of status. It means acknowledging you have no power of your own and embracing total dependence on him. The Gospel of John offers an agricultural metaphor for how God produces life out of apparent failure. Jesus notes that a single grain of wheat remains completely alone until it falls to the ground. Biologically, the seed has to be buried. It has to yield its current form and essentially die to what it was before it can split open and bear fruit. Jesus was talking about his own approaching death. He was surrendering his life to fulfill a mission that would glorify God and ultimately bring eternal life to others. We are subject to the same law of the seed. We have to yield our rigid ambitions and die to our own need for control before we can experience true, fruitful life. Take a hard look at your own life. If every layer of external success, every carefully laid plan, and every protective wall you've built was suddenly stripped away, what would be left? If everything you relied on vanished tomorrow, would Jesus alone be enough? Faith looks like the child Jesus held in that room, a posture of total surrender, where we hand over the pen and let God write the rest of the story. It is okay to acknowledge that life isn't turning out how you thought it would, but in that frustration, try opening your empty hands and conceding that God is still worthy. We find lasting peace when we finally stop trying to be the center of our own stories and trust that His plans are always better than ours.